TIL. The Tourette Association of America initially feared South Park's release of their Tourette's episode, but ended up being surprised at how accurate and well-researched the show was on the condition. The only thing they critiqued was the frequent use of coprolalia or rampant swearing. I worked with a guy who told me he suffered. Never noticed his tics until he pointed them out. Only swore uncontrollably once whilst I worked there. We walked into the foyer for a very high-class legal firm, and I asked, "What's that smell?" "Smells like cunt," he shouted. I worked with a guy that had Tourette's. He was one of the kindest, hardest working, most conscientious people I've ever met. I'd trade most of my current co-workers for him in a heartbeat. But thankfully we worked in a blue-collar environment and his Tourette's outbursts actually were appreciated. He yelled, "I hate this fucking place. Yeah, I love big women," and if you started singing a song he knew he had to finish it all the way through. He had tics, grunts, screeches, and other signs, but we just rolled with it. I think the thing I miss the most is how much he loved when we would copy some of the things he said. You'd have 10 to 15 people screaming, "I hate this fucking place," and he would be roaring with laughter. I got a golden ticket. I love that episode. Eric was his usual self but turned bad for him until Kyle unwittingly saved him. No one asked for this, but coprolalia comes from ancient Greek. Copro equals dung, filth, and lalia equals talk, so, literally, if you're doing this, you are talking filth, dung talking, or maybe even talking shit depending on how we define that term. South Park is a show that thrives on poking fun at controversial topics. The last thing they want is for that to backfire on them. My daughter has Tourette's, both vocal and motor tics. What really pisses me off is that it's one of the few disorders that's not classified as a disability. She is constantly let go from work because people get irritated with her constant noises, and there's fucking nothing we can do about it until the Tourette's Association of America can get it classified as a disability. I think the coprolalia was what Cartman latched onto, and I think people learned that's not all Tourette's is about. Their episode Cripple Fight impressed me when at the end Big Gay Al points out the obvious. It's a lesson we should learn. My brother-in-law's brother has Tourette's and it's pretty bad. Mostly it sounds like he's just clearing his throat every 15 seconds. But every few minutes he swears. His swear word of, not, choice. Nigger. I have Tourette's, mild, can confirm I loved it. But yeah, 90% of cases don't swear, myself included, but that's everyone's favorite symptom, obviously. There's a great YouTuber who has Tourette's. She often makes videos that show how hard it is to do basic things while also being lighthearted and honestly hilarious about it. It's a terrible condition, but I wanted to post a link to it in case people know someone with Tourette's that could identify with her, or for anyone that has never seen Tourette's to see what it's like in a neutral environment. Sometimes these descriptions and anecdotes are too clinical and depressing to connect with on a human level. https://www. youtube.com/watch, v equals mqcdhgjqwc, https://www. youtube.com/watch, v equals mqcdhgjqwc. Piss out of my ass. When I was in Japan on my way to the airport, there was a guy with Tourette's on the train and I felt so bad for him. For those who don't know, it's considered very rude or poor form to be loud and / or take up too much space on public transportation. This guy was swaying back and forth and every few seconds would blurt out something pretty loud. I saw him get off our car and go to the next one over, I assumed to not disturb one group of people too much. Poor guy. There's a ton of truth nuggets in South Park. The Mormon episode was so well done. An apologetics professor at a Christian university I attended showed it in class to help summarize what Mormonism is. I have Tourette's, not the swearing kind, and I enjoyed that episode a lot. It's hilarious and thoughtful. I'm also a TCAP fan, so this episode was double awesome. I have never seen South Park criticize anything that didn't deserve it. Surprisingly enough, the one thing that really helped mitigate my Tourette's was acupuncture. The cruelest treatment I've ever received was from grade school teachers though. The kids either didn't care or accepted it, or joked about it when I wasn't there lol. South Park does a fantastic job of merging accuracy and satire. Bob Saget. Weird, what I learned from the episode is that a majority of Tourette's isn't vocal. Why did they think the episode perpetuated that concept? The room was full of people with largely non-swearing related tics. I watched it with my friend who has Tourette's and he couldn't stop talking about how good it was. There is a cart guy at Myers in Westerville, Ohio, let that bird fly. I have Tourette's, and that episode of South Park is one of the best representations of it I've ever seen in media. It's also one of the funniest episodes, emo. The only thing they exaggerate is the swearing. That particular tic is actually pretty rare. South Park is frequently accurate, it only really parodies how the public views things. I think the NASCAR episode is the best example of this. When the professional drivers are being asked questions, they answer with super intelligent answers, but Cartman answers with the view the average person has of the sport. Is there anywhere I can view this episode? To be fair though, I'm pretty sure their baseline non-Tourette's episodes feature more frequent swearing than most people with Tourette's. As someone who has Tourette's, I was so disappointed that it took South Park to actually display it remotely accurately. It's so realistic that I can't watch it. My tics start going into overdrive when I see those kids tic. As someone with a physical disability, I've actually always been impressed by how South Park handles disability issues. One Christmas my brother bought me the Timmy and Jimmy action figures. The friends shopping with him at the time were offended on my behalf. Years later, I display them proudly on my desk at work. Anytime I tell people I have Tourette's or mention anything about it, this episode of South Park comes up 9/10 times. Full disclosure, I love the episode and am not offended by it. I try to explain that Tourette's isn't just screaming out cuss words or having violent tics. A lot of people, such as myself, have Tourette's but are blessed to not be in a situation where it's debilitating. However, even just having small tics is a huge drain on physical and mental energy. Not only are you constantly having to move, but you're also worried about if other people can see, and it's kind of embarrassing. I don't know where I was going with this comment. I don't get a whole lot of chances to talk about Tourette's, so I kind of get excited when I do. As a formerly active member of the LDS Church, I was pleasantly surprised at how factually accurate the LDS digs were. Both the Joseph Smith/Mormon episode and the treatment of the Mormons being the only one in heaven treating visitors. They hit the theology and the culture on the nose. Did I appreciate the tone? But if someone is going to mock you, it is endearing to see they put in the effort to make sure they are accurate. What's also hilarious, as a MH advocate, it's literally one of the few things I deeply care about. I find it absolutely hilarious that people are offended by most of the stuff on South Park when it comes to mental health. They also had the Asperger's episode, and as someone who may have that, I'm still wanting to get tested. Just a complicated situation though right there. I thought that episode was absolutely hilarious, but I love South Park. I totally don't understand how, some of it, but how people can be offended by all of South Park when this stuff happens too. FFS, they brought light to sex addiction. Was it a little fucked up? Yeah, a little. But it's a satirical comedy show based somewhat around current events and actually found a way to bring it up, so yeah. I'd be willing to bet Matt and Trey are actually really decent dudes.